Hello, everyone. Leon back here again. And today we're going to get into talking about something that's been on my mind this week about dynamic pricing and how it is affecting everything else of today, especially if you are a consumer, a shopper that does things out on the real world or do a lot of shopping on through via e-commerce or through online, knowing that today it's a different environment and things have just shifted so much now. Way you are buying, and I feel that right now, especially where things are going, I mean, things are heading to a different direction when it comes to the buying power of everything too. And dynamic pricing is one thing I've been looking up for some time. I have did a little research this week because I know that there's a lot of things that just doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to the price of everything else. Whether you buy electronics, food, makeup, or clothing, or even a lot more important things, or who knows, via the cars. There's always something that nobody wants to go over too deep on, and I want to get right into the heart of things too, because especially if you are a frequent shopper, let's say Walmart, Target, or the big boxers, you know that this is going to affect you on the long term, especially when you are buying and you do not want to be priced out. So I want to go ahead and get into this article on this person that written this, the person that wrote the article, Jennifer Lino, which it highlights what is dynamic pricing and how does it affect e-commerce. And that's what I want to get over today. So let's get on into the topic right now. Pricing is tricky for business owners. You want to receive optional revenue for your products or services, but you don't want to price yourself out of the market. Today, companies have much more information at their fingertips about real-time supply and demand, allowing them to maximize profits by instituting a strategy called dynamic pricing. While this isn't an entirely new concept, companies in the travel and hospitality industry have been using it for years, and which I have to say it is true because a lot of the hotel industry have been using it. And now, let me stop right here on the article, which in this contrast, now it's going to be affecting everywhere else right now, which I don't know. I like about the whole dynamic pricing because I like things where they're things that were fixed and people know what they were buying at that point in time, and people don't want to be having to find out what prices will be next week. And so continuing on with the article right there, dynamic pricing is much more relevant in the age of e-commerce. Business.com spoke with e-commerce professionals and pricing experts to break down everything to know about dynamic pricing, including the benefits, downside, and commonly asked questions. And here, the big title, the next one I'm reading is, what is dynamic pricing? Dynamic pricing is product pricing based on various external factors, including current market demand, the season, supply changes, and price bouncing. With dynamic pricing, product pricing continuously adjusts, sometimes in minutes, in response to real-time supply and demand. Amazon is one of the largest retailers that use dynamic pricing, and undoubtedly the way most consumers have been exposed to the practice. Its algorithms continuously adjust and evaluates the prices online shoppers see on its website. Dynamic pricing is a flexible strategy where prices continually adapt it to real-time supply and demand, enabling businesses to optional revenue, improve competitiveness, and enhance customer satisfaction. This approach allows retailers to maximize revenue during high-demand periods while offering competitive pricing during slower times. Dynamic pricing in e-commerce. Dynamic pricing leads itself more to e-commerce than brick-and-mortar business because it is based on real-time trends and supply chain factors. Since in-store prices are more difficult to changes, these businesses tend to set prices that last for longer periods. In contrast, online businesses can um, easily change their pricing. For example, if stock for a particular product drops on an e-commerce site like Amazon, for instance, you'll likely see a surge in the prices within minutes. Walmart is another example of a major company that uses dynamic pricing online to stay competitive. Online retailers with ever increasing competition face the challenges to maximizing profits while keeping their prices competitive. Dynamic pricing is a ideal solution to this problem. It concerns supply and demand changes to recommend optional prices if implemented for a sustained period. This pricing strategy can significantly boost your overall revenue and profitability. So, and I have my comments with the dynamic pricing. And my comment on this is one, what about consumers, especially everyday people that are just looking to get a bargain or deal? Which, I mean, right now, it's been like this forever. Like the article says, and I agree with the article where hotels can adjust their prices depends on the season. Like the busiest times are summer. Like if you're going on a vacation trip during the summer season, then you know it's the prices will adjust. And I get it. That's on them, and that's been a practice for a very, very long time. And now, if you're looking on a practice on a consumer level, let's say like grocery stores, electronics, like for instance, this is a store I used to go every now and then, but nowadays my buying has shifted. Where for me, I'm not a fan of going to a big conglomerate retailer like Best Buy. So, like Best Buy was a store I used to go to, and to me, I purchase most of my things online because it is convenient and I don't mind spending on the shipping. Let's face it, because I don't like where things are going with dynamic pricing, and Amazon and Walmart, and then the other ones I lost track. Oh, like Target, for instance. Like Target, if I'm not mistaken, they're gonna end up following suit as well, having prices to change depending on demand. Now, this is where I don't know how legal this practice is, because, however, if I get it that companies want to make money, they want to make a profit, sure. Why would I want to spend more on certain items I'm looking for? Now, particularly if you're looking for a cheap health products like say toothbrushes, toothpastes, I don't think it's like that demanding. And probably if you're looking for big box items, that's something like a collector. If you are something that are looking for things that are just tangible, whatever, probably they will just upscale the price because of the value of the item too, for those instances. And I really don't like the sound of dynamic, because that's where companies can control whatever the prices they want. And I don't know if they're going to end up doing a lot more damage to you and I, everyday consumer, looking for our needs. Right now, I get that probably companies can mess around what customers want on their daily shopping habits, because I know there's always demand for products and items and services, and I get it. There's a different demand for that. But for me, how I see things is, I'm not sure if I really like the idea of dynamic pricing, because that should be on a dynamic pricing. And I've never thought about it this way too, because I don't want companies to dictate what the prices should be. That should be based on the companies and how these companies should be, not based on what these retail conglomerates should do, because they can just mess around the pricing first thing, and then they'll mess around the pricing the next day, which I don't know how I feel about that too, because it is interesting where things are going, because right now everybody's going through a lot of challenges because our purchasing power is not like it used to be too, and everyone is tight. And so right now it's like, why do I want to having to figure out what is what And like for instance, like the other day, like I've gone through a website, and especially like I mentioned about Best Buy. Like for those of you listening outside of the United States or listening to me, and wondering what the hell is Best Buy. Well, Best Buy is an American electronic retail store, and that's a store I used to go to here and there, and their prices have gone up exponentially, and I don't like where Best Buy is going because they have took off for instance, like the physical media, which it should have sustained. And I understand that if your product isn't selling, you can't keep it on shelves, which I understand that point. And that's why I feel that with everything going on, I'm just like, oh, I don't know that I like this at all, because having to change prices often and leaving us consumers confused about why is this much higher than this price. And I get it. There's a lot of activities going, and it also, a lot of people are saying that the reason they're doing it is because they're taking data out of the algorithms online, showing what is current and what isn't current to that very point in time. And so continue on with the article here. How dynamic pricing works. Dynamic pricing relies on sophisticated algorithms and artificial intelligence, AI. Remember, that's how they're doing this too. To analyze vast amounts of data and make real-time pricing decisions. These systems process multiple data sources simultaneously to determine optional pricing strategies. Key data sources powering dynamic pricing includes consumer behavior patterns, which means purchase history, well, that's one, browsing activity, and engagement metrics. So that's how they do this, is consumer behavior patterns. And then bulletin number 2, competitor pricing, real-time monitoring and competitor pricing across multiple channels. And 3, market demand and supply, current inventory levels, stock availability, and demand fluctuation. And then that number 4, external factors, seasonally weather conditions, special events, and economic indicators. Machine learning algorithms use historical sales data, consumer behavior, and market trends to predict future demand and adjust prices accordingly. These algorithms can incorporate real-time data such as competitor pricing, inventory levels, and customer traffic to make immediate pricing decisions. By analyzing how sensitive customers are to price changes, elasticity, algorithms can optimize pricing to maximize revenue without losing sales. Yeah, and this is another excuse, and I have to say this, and I do think that most of these big corporations, they are screwing a lot more of customers, like daily, everyday consumers like you and I. And now, as I'm just reading over, it's like this is where I'm not sure I really like where they're going at it, because they're using metrics and data, which I feel that they should have just keep things fixed. Because first of all, I remember the last time anything got sold out really fast was during pandemic 2020, was toilet paper. Now, I never remember a time that toilet paper was hiked up so fast in grocery stores, that I don't think, for me, however, I don't think toilet paper should be out of stock. It would be hard to be out of stock right now, but back then when people got panicked and people heard the news about everything, I thought the whole situation was ridiculous, that people are buying toilet paper, which I would figure if they're if they are shitting COVID-19 out of their ass, I don't know what gives. And it's really strange where people are buying it. Instead, they should have been purchasing medicine during the time to keep themselves better. I don't know, like Tylenol, ibuprofen, or whatever or whatever medicines that can keep you well. Because if you are really sick, medicines should have been the main concern instead of toilet paper. But I don't know. People's minds are really weird when it comes to it too. But and now let me go over to types of dynamic pricing strategies. There are multiple dynamic pricing methods businesses can implement based on their specific needs and market conditions. Each strategy targets different factors that influence consumer pricing decisions. Time-based pricing adjusts prices according to specific need time periods, or like examples, peak hours, seasons, holiday. This strategy capitalizes on predictable fluctuations in demand throughout different time frames. Airlines increase prices during peak travel seasons, while restaurants may offer lower lunch prices during weekdays to attract customers during slow periods. Demand, demand-based pricing. And this one here it goes sets prices in direct response to consumer demand levels. When demand surges due to trends, seasonally or unexpected events, prices increase to capture higher margins. When the demand decreases, prices drop to stimulate sales and prevent excess inventory buildup. This model relies heavily on real-time sales data and behavior signals. And let me go ahead and make another comment about this too, because and I get that if you are working in certain industries like the airlines or the hotels, I mean, I get it because based on the seasons, but it's like right now, retailers wants to make it where a lot of these they want to normalize the practices like what the airlines are doing and still doing today, and then the hotels too, because everyone travels all the time. A lot of people travel all the time, so I can see why they want to go through that and say, okay, let's go ahead and get our money's worth it, and why not too. And then you got the dynamic pricing like coming on electronics, which there should be a point that we want to have a sale, right? We want to see sale prices like in certain seasons. Like if it was me, I wouldn't want to see dynamic pricing going high just because the company or store felt that if the product is high in on demand, people should pay a lot more higher. I don't know. I don't know if this is all good and all. And you guys may correct me in the comments down on YouTube if you're listening via YouTube. But I don't like it, and I don't know how this practice is really good for consumers, because how are customers supposed to know if that specific item or whatever that item people purchase is how they're supposed to know in advance? Because if I go to a store, I don't check the prices of that store right there beforehand, because a lot of people will just step in and say, okay, let me go grab a few things like food, hand cream, soap, whatever, and whatever they need. People just want to get their things and do that, because not everyone is going to go on to the store or the store application and find out what prices they should do, because not everybody is a coupon cutter. Not everyone is. I'm not a coupon cutter. I don't use coupons to go to each individual store. I just don't like that too. And my thing with dynamic pricing is that if this is going to be normalized, or if this practice continues to normalize in most stores, then I don't know what it is and how far we can go and backtrack it too. Because I'm not going to read the whole thing of this article, which here it details a lot of things like dynamic pricing strategies, which what they want to do is basically time-based demand price rising, which let me give you a little bit of details on this, which says sets prices in direct response to consumer demand levels. When demand surges due to trends, seasonality, or unexpected events, prices increase to capture higher margins. That's, of course, higher margins. What else it would be? When demand decreases, prices drop to simulate sales and prevent excess inventory buildup. This model relies heavily on real-time sales data and behavioral signals. Just what I mentioned too. And that's why I don't think I would love this at all, because first of all, there's a lot of hobbyists like myself. Like the reason, even though I'm not gonna build a whole bunch of computers in my life, and the reason I love watching tech channels or anything like that is because I just love watching people going through their own builds and their own things, because I just enjoy watching stuff like this too. And there are times I'll be like, I would say a little envy. Like, oh man, I would love to have this built in my life and whatever. And even though I myself cannot afford to go out and purchase the latest and greatest, which while it is true, but I feel that right now, with a lot of companies taking advantage of, people, especially where I feel right now that we're going to get into a very hard recession. I mean, we are on a recession, but not as hard right now. Because right now, if let's say if the bubble pops, for the AI bubble, I would say pops, I'd say this year or by next year, my question is, how can people go out and start buying? But I know a lot of people, especially I myself, will go out and say, well, I don't think it's going to be as bad. Wait until the bubble pops. We'll see prices drop. Though I'm not sure about that too, because who knows what the market is going to hold by now until next year. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes, because it is tricky, because I as a hobbyist don't want to be overspending on brand new things. Like, to me, if I were to purchase a computer built by next year, my thing about this too is, for one, I have a feeling that the NAND pricing is not going to go too well, and a lot of people are going to stand up against it, or people are just not going to trust this whole system of dynamic pricing in the e-commerce world, where I'm not going to go and spend a lot more for parts, because I'm a consumer that is very careful what I put down. Like, for instance, AMD right now, the cost of AMD chipsets are over $300. Now, for me, that is still a lot of money for AMD Ryzen chipsets. I'm not going to spend more money on something I'm not. Who knows? Probably I don't know if I'm going to use it that often. But let's say if I really needed a new computer at some point down the line, why would I ever go out and spend that much on CPUs? Because for me, I'd rather go out and spend on a Intel CPU, which right now, Intel CPUs are actually really good right now. I mean, I understand there's people out there that they'll lean back about how 5 years ago Intel was so not good because they've lied about their numbers or their benchmarks or whatever. But if you could let that go about how Intel was bad, right now Intel is in a good spot, because you can still purchase a 13th generation or 14th generation chipset from Intel, and you can still get a good price CPU and have a good build. And that's why I will still go for something like Intel. Like right now, my current build is a Ryzen, but that's why, even though part of me was like, AMD is just too expensive right now to get into another AMD Ryzen build. I just can't do that, even in today's market, in today's pricing market, because right now it just doesn't make a lot of sense for me to pay more for a brand new build. Because if I build something, I don't just want get just the CPU. I want to get the CPU, the motherboard, the chassis case, the GPU, the fans, and then let's not forget PSU, the power supply. I mean, that's always important to power your computer with everything else as well. So that's why you have to prioritize what you want on a build. And I know that there's been crazy, outrageous prices right now for graphics card because graphics cards a are right now they're like very expensive. Like to me, that the prices of graphics cards for both Nvidia and what's the other Radeon are just too high. Right now it's like the prices are like the price of a car payment. And I'm like, sorry, no way I'm going to do that. It's absolutely no way I'm going to go and spend more than I really don't need. Because Intel right now is still set in a very good position because it's less costly. I can go ahead and get a Intel build for the least expensive, including the motherboard too. Motherboards don't really cost a whole lot too. So you have to take for what it is. Now, and that's where I say that even though I am a computer guy at the end of the day, that's not always the most important part of me. While I am a hobbyist, I really don't need to spend that kind of money. Now, as a consumer, what's going to be important because is food. Now, do I like to buy that food because I enjoy that type of food? First of all, no. The reason I buy food is because all of us have to survive. And that's always true for everyone else. Everyone has to eat. So, and that's why I find this a huge issue with dynamic pricing, which I don't think it's going to go out well long term. And also, this article does tell you a good bit about the downsides of dynamic pricing in the e-commerce. For instance, risk of customer backlash or distrust, which that's very true. Difficult to implement accuracy. So how you gonna know? And then number 3, bad data drains profits. Yeah, I believe so. Shoppers may wait or leave for deals. Yeah, exactly. And number 5, reduce loyalty when buyers see price gaps. All 5 of them, I agree. This is good because who wants to see this? Like, sure, I would go and to a certain supermarket. Like in my area, I would go to a Kroger's. Well, those Krogers are pretty much on every corner where I live, and like it's between like 5 miles around my area. Doesn't mean I'll end up being loyal to that supermarket alone, just because it may be close by. But who knows at the end of the day, or what these companies will do is just jerk the customers off and screw you and I around, because nobody wants to go through that issue of having to deal with dynamic pricing. I say just keep things fixed. I don't think these retailers or the supermarket vendors should have the control. I mean, I think those companies should have more of a say on pricing. Like if I wanted to spend more of a can of soup, if that can of soup was great, it probably is a good can of soup I'll have probably in a colder season. I just wouldn't want to spend a lot more than I want to. But either way, I think this is kind of an issue for so many people now, because people are going through a tough time now with having to go through it. And I do think this dynamic pricing, just my opinion personally, I don't think it's going to go out well for the long run too. So there are tons of good things I could say that if people get up and not having to purchase anything from these big corporations, like instance Amazon, the airlines, or Airbnb, great. Let's not give any more of our money. And I will say one of my also recent experience is how expensive it is here in the United States for Uber or Uber Eats. Like, I actually will give you an example where I recently used Uber to go from my town to the next, which is like 45 minutes away where I live. Because anyways, I had errands to go do something recently, and Uber is expensive, and it doesn't matter where you go in the United States, it's terrible, and you're spending a lot more on that ride, the surge prices and everything. And I will tell you is that not every ride is always going to be a great experience, because it's so bad enough where you're having to deal with the fluctuation and the cost of the price too. Let it alone, like, I don't mind spending, I don't know, like $20 to $22 for a fare. I mean, or much lower, but holy shit, I mean, who wants to deal with the surge prices? Because especially how Uber controls it, and people can go out and say, well, that's how Uber works. They will it will cost you, depends on the pricing and how long the ride is going to be from point A to point B. And look, no doubt about it, but if you go to other countries, it doesn't cost that much to take an Uber. It depends on what city you go to, on what other country. But for me, it's still not worth it at the end of the day too. And also, Lyft is probably the same way too, because Lyft is horrible as well. And I feel that, man, for these ride sharing services, I feel we do need to have a third party solution or a fourth party solution to that matter, or at least more competition to have a disruptor on it too. Because right now, these ride sharing companies, it's just very monopolistic at this point. But that's all me at this point. Just pointing what I've been experiencing, what I've been seeing. So if to put an end to it, let me know down the comments, what do you think about what's been happening? Because do you think you're being ripped off now? Or is it just me? I do read every single one of your comments because I do think it's very, very important that we stay up to date with these things, because I don't like where, personally, I don't like where dynamic pricing is going. I do think this practice should be off completely, because I understand if you're working on the airlines or the hotel industry, but I don't think it should be affected with consumers purchasing grocery stores and all that too, because I think it's just ridiculous where everything is going. So anyways, just put your opinions down below. If you're on YouTube, if you like what you hear, hit the thumbs up button, or if you don't, hit the thumbs down button and tell me why. Anyways, that is all. Have a good rest of your day. Bye for now, everyone. Thanks for listening to this podcast for episode 251 here on the Lean on the Grid podcast. If you want to hear more, please subscribe to me on your favorite podcast platforms of your choice. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Deezer, and much, much more. And you can find me everywhere on your podcast services of your choice. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.